My parents died tragically. My father took the life of my mother and then he killed himself. So I feel like just right out the gate, I was kind of presented with a life that had grief. That was a part of my life. And then it wasn't until my husband died, which will be almost 4 years ago this coming July, he took his life. I found him on the side of the road in his work truck near my gym. He had shot himself. Grief and happiness can live in the same place, because there is not a day that goes by that I don't think about my husband. And I miss him. Like these moments of my girls going to college. He's not there. You know, I'm empty nester and we should have been doing this together.
But he's always there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he is.
He's always there.
He is.
Hi guys, welcome to Ivana Speaks. Today I have my great friend, growing friend,
Yes.
Olivia here, and she has a wonderful podcast herself. Do you want to give everyone a little bit of info about what your podcast is called and what it's about?
Sure, thank you. So my podcast, it's called After the Silence. And what I do is I bring guests on to share their story of trauma, and whether they've had a family relative that's gone through suicide or even friend, trying to kind of ease up the stigma around grief. And so I think it's important that when they share their story, that it's not only healing for them, but also for others, just to know that they're not alone.
That's so beautiful. And I think that can sometimes be a very lonely journey.
Yes,
Grief
absolutely.
and going through grief. And you are no exception to and have a really incredible story yourself. So to have a podcast and to be talking about something that's so relatable to you is so profound. And so I'd love to tell your story today about grief and um I'll let you kind of start where you feel is best.
Okay. Thank you. So it pretty much started out when I was 2 months old. My parents died tragically. My father took the life of my mother and then he killed himself. And so I feel like just right out the gate, I was kind of presented with a life that had grief. And my mother's mom raised me and she took me in and just showed so much love to me. And I'm so grateful for her and the life that she gave me and provided. But we definitely I grew up going to the cemetery on a regular basis, and funerals of other relatives that died and whatnot. But that was definitely something that I just learned to like. That was a part of my life. I was okay with around grief. And then it wasn't until my husband died, which will be almost 4 years ago this coming July, he took his life.
Gosh.
Yeah. So
What a journey. I kind of am at a loss of words for this, because to be introduced to that at such a young age is probably just, I can't imagine the shaping that does to a child's brain and the evolution of that. And I I'm also curious, how old were you when you found out what really happened?
I remember being really, really, I don't think I was even 10 yet. And I think my grandmother wanted, because I was brought up calling her mom. And so she wasn't a cousin, but just kind of like distant relative, I guess. Um, she one day came up to me and said, that's not your mom, that your mom died. And I was just like, what? And so it was kind of introduced to me prematurely in a way that I think my grandmother wouldn't have wanted me to find out. And so that just kind of rose questions, like what happened? What's. But I don't, honestly, it's weird because I really don't remember a lot of what I felt around all that, just confused and just kept going about my life essentially. And just knowing that going to the cemetery, that was my mom. And, would visit her quite often. So I remember we'd go put fresh flowers and just, I'd kind of lay there knowing where she was buried. And it was kind of like, I'm right here. So it was it became a thing, a normal thing that we did growing up.
And it sounds like your grandma was a loving being. It sounds
Oh my gosh, yes.
yes.
She's still around. She's 90 years old, and she's at a facility here in Austin with me, so I go see her. I try to see every day, if not every other day, and yeah, she definitely showed so much love to me, and I credit her for just the love that I have of life, and she supported anything I wanted to do. Just kept me involved in gymnastics and dance and even pageants, modeling, singing, all kinds of things. And she was just my biggest supporter. And one thing that I always remember, and I tell her now, is when I was little, she'd say, Mija, what's in your heart? And we'd say, love. So that was just something that I look back on. I'm like, I'm so grateful that I'm able to, like, now be it with her during these last years of her life, and just show her so much love that she showed to me.
Wow, that's so beautiful. We talk about that so much on this podcast and on episodes, just that the only thing real is love. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that from a young age, you were raised in an environment that instilled that
Mm-hmm.
belief, and you just knew that. And it sounds like you just felt that from
Oh
your
yes,
grandma.
definitely. She's
Wow.
just wonderful. And yeah, um, I share this little story too because her husband died. I forget what year. I think it was 2006. Could be wrong, but he had dementia as well. And so then in her 80s, she was able to find love again. And there
Wow.
was a man that she was volunteering at this part of the hospital just as a greeter, helping people where they needed to go. And he said he was going to take her out. He wanted to take her to lunch. And I remember her asking me, should I do that? I'm like, yes, of course, go. It was just so cute. And and they were together for, I guess, 5 years or so. And it was just the sweetest thing to see her get treated in such this loving and incredible way that she could experience that. And they went out to eat all the time. And it was, oh, so it's just like, when I guess as a parent, you see your kids like when they're happy, and I'm like, it's kind of like full circle. And, I
Oh,
get to see her experience that. And it was just,
yeah.
it's
That's
just so
so
wonderful to have that.
I love that. It's almost like something gifted her some of that joy back because she
Yes.
was putting it out into the world her whole
Hmm.
life, and that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love this story, and that's a great reminder that it's never too late to find
No, it
love.
isn't.
Yeah.
And before I brought her to Austin, I knew, that she probably wouldn't get to see him again. And so I took her to go see him. And I recorded when they met, saw each other and their kiss. And it was so sweet. I filled my heart so much. And just to be able to witness this love that they had for each other. So,
Yeah, I bet it gave you an immense amount of hope, and
yes.
that's incredible. What's their status now, and what happened with the connection there?
Well, I mean, he's not, they're both getting older and he's not doing well. He can't get out and stuff. So that was kind of the last that they get to see each other because he's in Fredericksburg, and so
Mm,
yeah. So
yeah. How is her health now?
she has the beginning stages of dementia,
Oh,
and she overall she's always been really really healthy. She's never been on a lot of medications, never any major heart problems, anything like that. So, and I would have to remind her sometimes, like, Mom, you should realize you are so good. You're healthy. You, like, she was able to live on her own for a long time, and but why she needed to be put in facilities because she started having more falls.
oh,
And I mean, with all the falls that she's had, she's never broken any major like breaks or anything like that. And it's just been amazing that she's been doing so well with all the falls that she's had.
oh.
But there's some grief now with it's the, anticipatory type grief of knowing it's coming. And now that she's in this part of her dementia where she has set in her mind certain things she taught for a long time. And so she thinks she's at school and she needs to be picked up. And so she has it in her head, I need to go, I need to go. And it's just,
That's
it's hard to
sad.
learn to communicate, you know, that to help her feel calm and at ease. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think not a lot of people talk about how difficult it is to watch the aging parent process, and I think it's very common, and that's a hard thing to go through
Yeah.
and experience, and particularly the loss of memory. And I mean, none of it's easy at
Yeah.
any capacity, but to kind of, see that, and that's, I can't imagine, what a challenging experience that is.
Yeah.
Um, and it probably is a great lesson to everyone around them, though.
Yeah. Love, just my biggest thing is just love
Mhm.
to the fullest. And, tell your people that you love them because you never know. And spend that time with your grandparents or, your aging parents too. And because, I mean, they're why we are here.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet, sweet spot to be in, but also there's some grief around it too. Because
Yeah.
it's coming, and there's no matter how much you think you're prepared for it, it's going to be a tough one for me too.
Oh, yeah. It seems like she's one of the most impactful people in your life, and
Hmm.
probably shaped what a nice and lovely human you are now.
Thank you.
And but your journey has not been easy, hearing all that you've been through. So you had that initial kind of realization at 10,
Hmm.
hey, this is, and I'm also taking want to take back to were you angry in that moment? Like, how did you feel? Because I can only imagine, I wouldn't even believe it if I was in your shoes.
Yeah, I mean, as a child, I don't think I believed it at first.
Yeah.
But I guess there was always this like, huh, maybe there, yeah. But I just, over time, you come to accept it because as a child, she had me use her last name. So I wasn't even using my last name that I was born with. So that was normal. Everything was like, just like that was my life. And so it probably wasn't until we moved out of because that time I was in Vega near Amarillo, and when we moved to Fredericksburg, that's when I was 8. It was my 8th grade year, and I was like, I want to use my birth name, and I wanted to, kind of. I started questioning more. I talked to my sister more about our mom because I have two half sisters and a half brother. They both had kids before me.
Okay.
So, and I still have a relationship with them too. So
That's
just
great.
as you get older, you start, being able to ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have children of your own
I
now. And
do.
how many kids do you
I
have?
have three, and they're all out of high school. My son is 25, and I have a daughter that's at Texas Tech starting her junior year. She'll be 20 at the end of July. And then my youngest is 18. She just finished high school and will be going to Texas Tech also with her sister. So I have two
Wow.
Raiders.
That's amazing. I love this. I know you mentioned you guys were checking her in and doing
Yeah.
that's so
Had
exciting.
her orientation, so everything's official. She has her classes, and
Wow. Did they
so
pick a major? Does she pick a major?
yeah, she's got wants to study nutrition.
Oh, amazing. That's along the health journey. I
Yes.
must run a little bit in the family. That's so cool. But so you had that, but then you also experienced the death of your husband.
Yes, that was
Wow.
a huge turning point in my life for sure. We were married 18 years. We had actually just celebrated our 18-year anniversary in May, and I there was so much going on during that time. We so let's see, the start of 2020, we started with we had just, without getting full into that story, but we had to file bankruptcy on a business we had taken over, and we also had found out that he had stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. So going into 2020, we both of us no jobs. We had 3 small children, and he had cancer. And so it's like, okay. And of course, that was the year of, when COVID hit too. So I knew that I always wanted to be a personal trainer. Um, so at that time, I was like, okay, here's my chance. It's time to get my certification. And so during that year, or the beginning of the year, while taking him to chemotherapy, he was a military, so he was going to Audie Murphy for his treatments. And so I would just, while he was doing his treatments, I would be studying for my certification. And I started cleaning B&Bs to just bring some income in for our family. But I don't ever remember feeling fearful or scared of what's going to happen. It was just like this, like something just was turned on in me, like, we're just going to do it. It's fine. I just always had this enormous amount of faith that everything's going to be okay. And it was fine. And in May, he was in remission. Everything was good. He rang that bell. And once I got my certification, people had been following my fitness journey over the years. So I already had clients like, when you're ready, I'll be one of your clients. So I became a mobile trainer at that time too. So with COVID, that made it
Right.
pretty easy.
Yeah. That's amazing timing, for you,
Yes.
your career too. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything was just moving so fast. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I mean, this is like manifesting so quick. And I was just so grateful for all the doors that were opening. And so I, through another connection, I was gifted a small studio that I could take clients on, and hired my first trainer to help me. And then people were like, too bad I don't have enough space for like some group classes, because Camp Gladiator was a big thing around there. And I was like, okay, so maybe I'll look for a bigger space. Let's see what happens. I don't know what I'm doing.
Uh-huh. Figuring it
Yeah,
out.
figuring it out as I
Yeah.
go. And just being so grateful for all these opportunities that were coming. And so Kaylin was working, and still, with the chemo brain, he was struggling quite a bit still, but he was doing the best he could as I was like growing all of this. And I ended up finding a building that was in the process of being, or it was just the cement. It was in the process of being built, and it was a 45 square foot, like, just building. And I was like, okay, let's take it. And I signed a lease for that. And then my trainer that I had, he heard of Castle Hills Fitness was getting rid of a bunch of equipment, and a local bank gave me a loan to get the equipment, which fully, I mean, it was everything I could ever need for my gym.
That's
And
beautiful.
so it was enough space for a full gym, cardio, a space for group classes. And July 5th, that was the day we opened the doors. And then yeah, things were just moving really fast, and it was good. And I remember the days that Kaylin was just struggling, that I was just like, just be patient. It's going to all work out. I know things are crazy right now. I know we're um, like, don't have much time, but it'll it'll get better. It'll get better. And his boss wanted to send us on a trip around that time too, just like a weekend trip. But I was just so wrapped up in, I need to get this open, need to get, tend to my business. And I was like, we will, just let's get this opened. And he like totally helped in the process of getting my gym ready. His hands were all involved in all that too. So it was very special that, we did that together as well. And we also were ones that we worked out at the gym every day together early in the mornings. We get up at crazy ass hours, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to hit the early morning rush. Crazy, but we did.
Wow.
And then about 4 weeks, 3, 4 weeks later, I found him on the side of the road in his work truck near my gym. He had shot himself. Yeah. So that was definitely a huge, huge shift in my life. Yeah. I remember showing up and walking up to the truck, and I saw the blood on the window, and I was just like, honey, no. And I'm like, okay, I need to get my phone, call 911. So I called them, and while I'm on the phone with them, I'm trying to open the doors to the truck. And I couldn't get in. I just wanted to get to him, and I couldn't. And, hindsight is probably for the best that I couldn't. But I realized that being that the truck was still on, because he did it when he was driving, and the guardrail stopped the truck. So that's why I couldn't get in. And they showed up, and they had asked if there was anybody that could come, be with me and, drive me back to the police station and stuff as well. And only people that I could think of was my nearest and dearest friends, Ron and Kim Sutton. I've always called them in just anything, and they came, and they were right there. And just, even though I knew he wasn't alive, it's still that when they come to you and just confirm, just like you lose it, like the reality. And just remember after that, just being in this numb state, just, they still needed to, since I was the first on the scene, they still needed to, question me and all the things. But yeah, it was just.
And then knowing you have to tell your children that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That night, they knew something was off and wrong, because he had turned off his location, and I went out to try and find him. That was when I found him that way. That was the second time I'd gone out. But, was looking all the places I could have an idea where he'd be, and probably had been in the places where he was, just probably the timing was off. I knew him very, very well, so, so well. And, going back to the house, he always had his pistol on his side of the bed and it was gone. And even Kalea, the one that's almost 20, she knew because they were really close. And of course, they wanted to go with me. I'm like, no, because I would not want them to see anything like that or be around that. But so going home, telling them telling them and telling his parents, his family, because his family all lived there as well. And I wanted to make sure they heard it from me before it got out. It's a small town where, travels fast. So, yeah, that was.
Wow. I'm almost at a loss of words if I'm really being honest with you. I'm like, can't imagine going through that and then knowing that you are now left, you're essentially immediately instant single mom, lost the love of your life. Now you have these three children. How do you navigate that?
Yeah.
You just lost a pivotal person of your household.
Yeah. Between that and, I had just opened my gym too. And the community, really the people around that when I opened the gym and everything, they really came together and were so supportive. And so I was able to, be there with the kids and just like, okay, what do we need to do? And let's, trying to navigate I guess now there's a funeral. How do it just like all these thoughts are coming across your mind, and yet you're just here. And it's kind of a blur of that time, but we had of course he was cremated, so we were able to have the service, pretty quick. And also just in a way I wanted to get that over with too. So then there's that just closure and it's not lingering, and let's just, so the 2 weeks after that, it was just very, very a lot going on with planning that. And I remember writing what I was going to write for the paper, the announcement, all the obituary. It was just, it's not something you think you're going to be doing. We were supposed to be, I was looking forward to the time we celebrate 20 years, and man, it's just.
Right. Cut way too short than you wanted to.
Mhm.
And I mean, now looking back, did you feel like what was his emotion the days leading prior to it if you now run back the film and
Yeah, of course you do. You just like, what did I miss something? And we would shower together quite often. And remember a few days before, and he would say this often, he'd be like, always remember I love you. But for some reason that day in the shower, it was just hit different. And
when he said
yeah,
that?
when he said that.
Wow.
And I didn't think, because yes, he's had suicidal thoughts before. This is not anything new. But he had always said, but what gets me through is tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day. And so my thought when he said it that in the shower was just, did he think he was getting sick again? Because he was, after the cancer, and even though he was in remission and everything was fine, I feel like with all the stuff that was pumped into him, and learning that people that go through chemo, they struggle with what's called the chemo brain, and it affects how they process, and things that they used to they were able to do could be difficult. And he was struggling with stuff, and I know it was frustrating for him. And that week, um, there was so many. He had a lot going on with work, and he was always he made lists of things he needed to get done. And where he worked, it just seemed like there was always something else added. He could never like complete his list, or he couldn't like there was something else added. Then it was becoming overwhelming, I think, that week. And I think he made there was a couple of mistakes he had made, and he takes that really really hard. And our daughter Clea, she was turning 16 that week, and it was a beautiful week. She wanted to be baptized on her birthday, and so she was. And she was involved with ROTC. They wanted her to speak at some event in Kerrville.
Wow.
So I mean, there was just so much like really awesome things happening. And where she was working as a host, they wanted to surprise her with a little kind of birthday celebration too. And that was the night that he had taken his life. Was we had gone to see her celebrate. And I guess that day it was just there was just a lot, I guess.
Not a lot, maybe a boulder of,
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I can't imagine. And they're grown kids too, so they're conscious and aware and very well know and love their father. I'm sure that's even
Yes.
more monumental. And I mean, how did that even, how does that unfold in a household? I,
I you know, I wanted to one thing I made sure I did was I wanted to stay sober with everything. I didn't want to use anything to numb any emotions that wanted to come through. Not even any prescription drugs. And I wanted to be, as much as I could with my kids. And because they were about to go into, Erin was going into her freshman year, Clea sophomore year of school. So there was, they were involved in activities. So it was like the girls, Dustin was already out of the house, but the girls really got more involved with the school. They wanted to, so they poured into that. And I remember telling them it's okay to cry. It's okay if we talk about dad. Um, and I went back to work a couple of weeks later, but there were moments where I had to, I would hit and I'd have to maybe cancel one of my clients because it was just like, I'm feeling the heaviness today. I can't. And they were, I mean, so gracious and understanding. But yeah, it was just, I wanted the, whatever emotions came through for any of us, I wanted it to be open and free to flow. But I also knew that I still had to keep going. I didn't want to just stay in bed, and which, you know, in society and things like that, it's understandable. You're grieving, you lost your spouse, but I didn't want to stay there. I knew that because I wanted also my girls to see mom can still rise too. It gives, like, in my thought process, it would give them strength to keep going too, because I didn't want them to worry about mom either, because I knew they still had, this is their last 4 years of high school. I wanted them to flourish as much as they could. And so the best way I knew we could do that was just, let's keep going. And mom, we can do this. Even though this is hard, we're going to have hard moments, but we can still do this. It's okay.
That's so beautiful. And just a testament to what a strong woman you are. I mean, gosh, you're running a new business at that point, just lost your husband, have 3 kids. I mean, who's taking care of you, right? Like, wow. I can't imagine that season of just strength and courage it took you to just like
You just
Move.
do. You just do. I feel like I've always had this optimistic and positive look on life. I've just, and even when shitty things happen, there is some beauty on the other side, that there is something. And I knew, especially with, it being suicide, there's all this grief and sadness and stuff that's going on in the world. There needs to be something more attention brought to this. Like, how can we help those that are struggling? What can we do? And with my gym, I knew I didn't want to stay in Fredericksburg. So I was in this like moment of, I have this great thing, but I know Fredericksburg is not where I want to stay. And so it was either keep pushing and building this, or we got to shift into closing it down. And so I made the decision to sell off my equipment and find somebody else to take over the lease. And it all worked out. And also in the process, I connected with a woman, Noelle Agape, that she was a quantum energy healer. And she did these what's called adventure therapy. And so I started working with her because I was like, okay, I need to start, working on whatever, this grief. I need to work on this and build and make sure I'm okay. And so I was immediately tapping into that. And in January, the girls and I, we went to Hawaii for one of her adventure therapy trips.
Amazing.
And so just one thing that I felt after he died was to live life to the fullest, because in our 18 years of marriage, our life revolved around work. It was working all the time. If we had plans, we canceled our plans so we could, if we needed to go work. It was just, and that, and then that trip that we, wanted to go on, that I was like, no, I need to get the gym open. I put that on hold. And what if, there's always that, like, what if that would have been the catalyst that would have kept him around a little longer? What if he needed that, that would have helped him through whatever he was dealing with, just that break. So that was definitely something that hit hard with me, and that I wasn't going to allow work to just consume my life. And doing things that with my family and friends that really are what mean something. That's because at the end of the day, it's not how much you worked, even though we need that to, for our living, provide a living. But I think there was no balance in that. And so I probably took it a little too far, I feel like sometimes, but it just, yeah, that was something that hit pretty hard in losing him.
Yeah. And I think that is such a great reminder, because we live in this society where what you obtain and the material success of it all is, there's so much importance that is placed on this.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great message that, to remind us to play,
Yes.
be present, and love on your family, your loved ones. And it's a true testament of your story that you come back to love.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I did find love again pretty quick after. And yeah, he's the reason I had moved to Austin, and he got me out of Fredericksburg essentially. And so that had its own story for another time, but I'm grateful for him and that I spent, past couple of years really I was able to sit in the muck of my emotions and feel, and I found my community of people here, and through the sound holographic sound that Maddie Brennan was doing at Flow Yoga, her and Aisha, and I just that was so healing. The frequencies of the bowls and the other instruments that were used, I credit that so much to my deep, deep healing that I been this past been experiencing these past couple of years.
That's incredible. And I love that you're such story of hope though, because I think sometimes, and I've witnessed it in my own family when a loved one does pass, and sometimes it's easy to say love isn't for me now, or I'll never find love again. But you're a beautiful example of hope, that there is more to the journey, and
Yes.
there's more love to be given and received. And I think that that seems like such a divine occurrence, that it was exactly what you needed in that
Yes,
moment.
it
And
definitely was. And I mean, we're all just, we want to connect. It's like community and connecting with people and just being present in the moment and just putting yourself out there. That's something else I've been like, just putting myself out there. I haven't done this. Let's try that. And it's been beautiful. And it's funny because my kids, I feel like they don't really know this side of mom, because mom was always work, 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 and just this like, driven in these moments where now mom wants more play and let's do this, let's do that. I just want them to see that you don't have to follow that path, that there's more to life than just that, or how we were brought up, because I feel like that's how we were conditioned and how we were, brought up in life. And now I see there's just this opportunity for so much joy, and because grief and happiness can live in the same place, because there is not a day that goes by that I don't think about my husband. And especially now, it's definitely becoming more frequent now that the anniversary is coming up, and I miss him. And like these moments of my girls going to college, he's not there. We're an empty nester, and we should have been doing this together.
but he's always there.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
He's always there.
He is. And he was larger than life, and his laugh, and everybody called him like he was the Energizer Bunny. Because he was, and he just gave you these hugs. He was amazing. And so, that's where, like my podcast means, it's so close to my heart. And I'm also going to bring in some virtual and in-person grief shares with the sound bath, because I went to a couple of grief shares and we're sharing the grief, but there was no like, what can you leave with to help move through the grief? And when I experienced my own sound baths and the healing that it provided,
Oh.
Yes.
What do you think? Penny, do you got something to say? This is intermission.
But
That's so beautiful, and you're so right. I love the idea that, and that's a beautiful way to say it. Grief and love can coexist.
yes.
And you can feel all that you feel while actively healing through that.
Yes.
What a beautiful
Yeah.
testament.
And I want to spread that and share that with people that are grieving. And it doesn't have to be the loss of a loved one. You can be grieving the identity of yourself that you aren't anymore. That's we shed that, we change, our lives evolve, our careers change, and there's grief in that. Even as parents, that their children graduate, they're no longer in the house. There's some grief around that. And it's okay. It's okay to feel those things. And it just, I just want to spread that awareness. Let's remove the stigma that you can't talk about what you're grieving. It's okay. We're all human. And sharing with others is important, and holding space for those around you to, feel those moments. It's okay. It's okay. And just know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. And I just love just sharing that love with each other. Yeah. Love and understanding, the empathy, the compassion. We all have our shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're always healing, learning, growing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a everlasting evolution of yourself.
Yeah.
And your soul, and those around you too. And I mean, if you look back at your journey, and if you were to tell someone that might be presently where you were in that beginning, what would you say to them?
Give yourself some grace. And there is no timeline that you're going to go through. I feel like, grief it's like waves of the ocean. And
you're going to maybe have to go into the room if you don't.
that, especially early on, that grief, it can hit you like a tsunami, and it just knocks you off your feet. That's okay. Feel it. Sit with it. And then as days go on, they become just goodness. They become just little waves that as you're walking, that just kind of hit you. And just give yourself the grace. Love yourself. Tell those around you love them. Tell your people you love them. If you have children, your family, love on them always, because you never know when your day is, that's your last day on earth in this life. And it's okay to be happy. That doesn't mean, speaking to loss specifically, it doesn't mean that you're forgetting about your person, because you'll never forget about your person. They're always with you. I even have this little pendant here that actually has his fingerprint on it.
Wow.
There's a company, it's called Legacy Touch, that if you tell the funeral home to get a fingerprint, they give you a code that's specific to your loved one, and you can have jewelry with their fingerprint put on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and this one is actually it has a little bit of his ashes in it. Wow. My daughter has one. Actually, both my daughters have one, and my son got a keychain that has his fingerprint. So
that's amazing.
Your loved ones, they're always with you. And I think if you live your life in honor of them to the fullest, full of joy and happiness, and spreading that love, that is honoring your loved one. And
Yeah.
that's just, I feel like that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a great example of, getting to the other side and also okay to feel the feelings.
Yeah.
I love that you reinforce that because this can apply in so many different ways. Sometimes we shame ourselves for not getting over something or why
Yeah.
am I so emotional, like I
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you're hard
exactly.
on yourself and it's exactly where you need to be and feeling through some of these things is the most human thing we could do
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know
not that there were my days where I was like so hard on myself. I've had so many days where I'm so hard on myself of just in different things that I've gone through and like, why aren't you over it? You need to get, because you just get in these loops in your head and you're just like, stop it. But
yeah.
but yeah, it's hard sometimes to allow yourself grace to move through that. And every day is not sunshine and rainbows and then you just flow through it. It sucks. It's hard. I don't want to paint a pretty picture of it, but
Yeah.
it's we're human. It's life. And you just go through it, pick yourself back up, and go again.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's knowing that tomorrow's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that earlier, and having that hope, I think, and it seems like you've been this way your whole life. So if I look at your journey, it's almost like the hope somehow you are still you stayed a hopeful light and positive being, and look what kind of, comes back your way.
I try to.
More love
Yes.
comes back your way. And I love that you're in this chapter. And I'd love if you could tell, what do you have going on now? I know you have your podcast, but how
Yeah.
can people work with you? And what are some,
Thank you. Yeah. So, well, one, if you feel like if people want to share their story, definitely you can connect with me on Instagram, Olivia Wehmeyer 82. Um, and there's a share your story form that you can fill out, and we can set up a call. I haven't picked the dates yet, but it is coming in July that I'm going to be offering virtual grief shares and bringing also get other people on that are more trained in like breath work or just other modalities that people can that are part of the virtual grief shares too that they can take with that outside of that this can help them move through those moments. And then in person, I'm just connecting with so many people of having an event that's going to be grief share, but with a sound bath of, just able that they can move through these emotions, that they can just allow themselves to feel those feelings, whatever's heavy on their heart, but then leaving with something so beautiful and healing for their body, their soul, their mind.
I
So,
love
yeah.
that. And even a sense of community is what
Yes. Oh
you're
my
bringing.
gosh. Yes.
This is incredible. And we'll definitely, when we post, add all the descriptions about Olivia's contact, all her information she has coming up. And so we can share and follow your journey.
Thank you.
And this is no doubt a divinely guided journey. I mean, you are a beautiful light in this world. And I'm so happy that I've met you
I
and
know. I
learned
love
your
them.
learned your story. And I got didn't got so emotional just hearing about this. And you, not just all this, but you are a strong woman.
Thank you.
Very. And I hope that you see your and you must, because I'm just like in awe of your being.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm just so grateful that you've invited me here to share my story. And it's been so great to meet you and get to know you and all the beautiful women that are around our this collective community. It's just been beautiful, and I love that. It's
Yeah,
so nourishing.
I agree. Community, you said it best. Community really gets you through.
Yes.
And we need, especially in a time where we're so alone, more than ever,
Hmm.
and social media creates a little bit of that divide.
It
Everything is
does.
virtual, it always does come back to
It
community.
does. And then, with social, with the highlight reels, everybody just, I think if we just show more of, we need more authenticity, the real, because with AI and everything, it's like, you don't even know if what you're watching is real.
Right. I
So
know.
just, being real and bringing more of that is what's going to, I feel like it's going to help. And people need that authenticity now, more now than ever. And
Yes.
just these community, that's the communities, the connections, and just the allowing grace and support and love.
Yes. Yeah. To everyone and anyone. And I love this. Well, this
Yeah,
is
thank
really
you.
great. I'm
I've
thankful
enjoyed it.
again. Yes. And thank you guys for watching. And we look forward to following Olivia's journey.
Thank you.